Welcome in to I Remember My First Time.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, don't be nasty, Jacob. Not that first time.
God damn it.
This is a podcast about cinematic awakenings,
All right, we're picking up steam here. Keep going.
where we talk about movies we love with someone who just popped their cherry to that movie.
Oh, perfect. Awesome. Awesome.
Jacob, are all the movies we do on this podcast going to be good movies?
God, I fucking hope not.
Do we like shitty movies?
Oh, we love shitty movies. Sometimes we like them even more than good movies.
Are we critics?
Absolutely not.
But do we love movies?
Oh, we love the fucking shit out of movies. And this week's masterpiece, bringing in, we're trying another new bit. This one is less of a joke and whatnot, but to start off Black History Month, we have the 1992 classic, White Men Can't Jump.
Hell yeah. Jacob, I can hear Jimi Hendrix now.
BJ, you are a honky motherfucker.
I am BJ
I
Leica.
can't believe you made me say that. I never look at his opening quote.
I am BJ Leica, and my mother's too drunk to be an astronaut.
Joined as always by me, Jakey Beakus. And I don't screw. I prefer making love or even fucking.
Rosie Perez in this movie, dude. I don't want to get
Ro-
too far into it, but holy shit.
I mean, you're right. That's the next segment. BJ, describe White Men Can't Jump so we can talk about what we liked about this movie because it damn sure includes Rosie Perez.
Hulu. I think we have historically said Hulu's terrible at descriptions.
Okay.
And they keep it up. At least, White Men Can't Jump. At least, that's what basketball hustler Westly Snipes thinks when he spies inept-looking Woody Harrelson on the sidelines and challenges him to a game. But Harrelson's a hustler too, and Snipes loses $60. So the two of them team up and are soon working their scams on basketball courts all over LA. Rosie Perez plays Harrelson's girlfriend in this comedy hit.
Little wordy, but yeah, that's pretty good.
I mean, they basically just described the first 20 minutes of the movie, and that's it.
That's all right. I mean, that's what it is. They hustle the whole movie. Rosie Perez is his girlfriend pretty much the whole movie. What more do you need to know?
You're the virgin. You watched White Men Can't Jump for the first time. So why don't you start us off with what you thought of this movie?
Yeah, this was my first time. This was a classic cherry pop, as we like to say. You know, honestly, I'm glad it took me 33 years to watch White Men Can't Jump. I can't say I really enjoyed my time watching it. Thought it was kind of boring. But also, I don't like basketball. And there's really nothing more I can say about the boringness. I did, however, enjoy the one-liners, the cutthroat back and forth little bits, and Rosie Perez is just a fucking star in this movie. But that's how I felt before we get into what we like and didn't like. I'm glad it took me so long to watch this movie. I probably won't ever watch this movie again. I looked at Nima as we were watching this movie, and I'm like, I wish we would have watched He Got Game.
So, okay, so before I get into mine, boring. This movie, which I love's a strong word. A movie which I really like. There are flaws with this movie, certainly, but boring is not what I would call it. Was it just too much basketball for you?
I don't know if it was too much basketball or if I didn't care about the characters and their story development at all. It just like it and when it first started and you had the three black guys singing and Woody Harrelson gives them $1 and they're like, what are we gonna do? It's like, well, he gave $1, let's give him $1 worth. Like I was sold, and I'm thinking I'm gonna like the fuck out of this movie. And then the first scene happened, or the first basketball scene. We meet Wesley Snipes. Woody Harrelson's there. He gets called a chump. He comes in, wins the game, and I'm just like, okay, this movie's gonna be fun. This is what I need after the amount of movies that I've watched in a row that have bored the shit out of me. And then like, there were good scenes. The acting was good. I don't know. It just kind of bored me for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, just because, like I said, watching this movie, it's the furthest thing from boring. There is constant quips and back and forth. There's screaming and yelling and tons of slow motion basketball shots. Like I said, there are flaws with this movie, and I'll touch on them. It's not necessarily what I didn't like, but I will point out the flaws. But boring is not what I thought of what I would have thought of why you didn't like it. That
Yeah,
I just found that odd.
yeah, I don't know. It's just the easiest way for me to explain it. So, what are your thoughts about this movie that you have thoroughly enjoyed throughout your entire life?
So to me, this is an incredibly unique movie. It's kind of a buddy movie. It's kind of a rom-com. It's kind of a love of the game slash how you deal with your vices movie. It's really interesting in how it's simultaneously smart and stupid. It's simultaneously light and dark. It's I think the genius of this movie, in my opinion, lies in it may be the only movie I can think of that clearly deals with race in a non-heavy handed way. I think that's why this movie shines. I think that's what makes it so beloved for so long is how it's clearly a race movie, but it is not heavy-handed in the slightest. And I think that's where the true genius of this movie lies.
So, with everything you just said, it's funny because, like, I hadn't really been able to put it into words or whatever, but I agree with everything that you said about the movie. And I enjoyed all of those aspects. And I think what bored me, and I listening to you, I just put this all together. I think what bored me is I didn't give a shit at all about what happened to Wesley Snipes and his character and what happened to Woody Harrelson and his character. Didn't care one iota.
Oh, it's also in the simultaneously. It's also incredibly real and grounded and just not not grounded in reality at the same time. Like certain things are incredibly grounded in reality and then other things are just completely unrealistic. It's really interesting how they do that in this movie. It's as an original movie as I think you're going to find.
Okay. Strong words from BJ Leica. I'll start with what I liked about the movie. It's weird that I didn't care about what happened to Wesley Snipes or Woody Harrelson's character at all. Like, I cared about their characters zero, and I think really that's what bored me is I could care less about the story. But I enjoyed them as their characters. I enjoyed their chemistry. I enjoyed their back and forth. I thought both characters were pretty fun. Wesley Snipes just incredible in this movie, just incredible, and Rosie Perez, just the fucking star of this movie. If every star that I award this movie goes somewhere, it's all to Rosie Perez. Just fucking incredible. Just and a
Like
smoke show too in '92. Just incredible.
it is two awesome performances by Snipes and Harrelson. And the best performance is Rosie Perez.
Yes, and so yeah, and I did like how they made the race a light thing. Like it wasn't too heavy on race. It was there. And I also enjoyed LA. Like I visited there for the first time last year. I always wanted to visit LA. So it was cool just like them playing basketball in Venice Beach. And I went to Venice Beach last year. That was dope. What'd you like about it?
The performances, all the three main characters are all putting on superb performances. That's the number one thing in this movie is, and of these three characters, I don't know what it was. Maybe it's because we just did Hot Guy January, but I have never found Wesley Snipes, Woody Harrelson, or Rosie Perez. I don't want to say not attractive, but I've never found him hot. And in this movie, I was like, Wesley Snipes looks kind of hot in this movie. And then I was like, is Woody Harrelson hot? Why do I think Woody Harrelson is hot in this movie? And then I'm willing to put Rosie Perez on the Rushmore in this movie of hot chick performances.
Yeah, who do we got on there so far? We have Sharon Stone, Eva Mendes.
I'm willing to Selma Hayek in Desperado. I think this is number 4. We are Latina heavy.
As we should be.
What else? I enjoyed the basketball. I'm sure you didn't. This movie does have 2 of my true loves, basketball and Jeopardy.
Yep. You are a single kid raised by middle-aged white people. So
yeah, I've watched a lot of Jeopardy in my life.
Yeah.
I've taken the online test to get on Jeopardy. I didn't do good enough. But yeah, I love Jeopardy. I love basketball. And it's, like I said, it's 3 really good charismatic performances.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier, one second. You mentioned earlier that Rosie Perez was hot and so was Wesley Snipes' wife. I don't know if I'd go so far as calling her hot, but she also gave a great performance the little time she was on screen.
Oh, I thought she was super pretty.
I'm not saying she wasn't pretty. I mean, she was attractive for sure, but Rosie Perez is hot.
Yeah, Rosie Perez had definitely more like personality to show off, but just like something about Wesley Snipes' wife's skin tone, I was mesmerized by.
You were about that?
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay,
flawless skin.
And she did have flawless skin. I'll give you that. But also, like I said, she ate up her screen time every time she was on screen. I enjoyed her character. Like, her character and Rosie Perez were incredible. They were my favorite parts of the movie.
Did you find Woody Harrelson strangely attractive in this movie or no?
Not personally, but that's just because of everything under his nose. I can't help it. His fucking weird ass mouth, his huge ass chin and jaws, and he's by no means unattractive. He's like, he's like Billy Bob Thornton. There's just things about him that don't go, but it's like, he's not ugly.
A 6 knows a 6.
A 6 knows a 6. You goddamn right. There's not really anything I didn't like about this movie other than I was bored. And like I said, I hadn't been able to explain it until just now. And I think it's because I just didn't care what happened to Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes characters, how they got there, and how they ended up. Like, I didn't give 2 flying fucks.
The plot sucks. The plot sucks. There's no way around it. This is not a good plot.
But they had great chemistry. But I mean, that's really the only thing I didn't like. And when I'm bored in a movie, that's enough for me to say I dislike it.
Yeah, the plot's awful. I actually liked that Woody Harrelson didn't get the girl. I actually kind of liked that part of the movie. Outside of the plot, I'm sure the Yo Mama jokes were really funny in 1992. We've heard them all by this point, and it's almost charming how bad they are at this point.
Yep.
But in 92, I bet they killed. But we've heard them all since then. And
those scenes with the Yo Mama jokes, like, they just were rattling off each other and talking shit outside of that. And everybody was good at it, not just Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes. Everybody was good at talking shit. I enjoyed how good everybody was with that and how well the director captured it. That was one of my favorite things about the movie. They did that really, really, really well.
It was a great way to put comedy in the movie very organically.
Yeah,
It
agree.
was very like pre-Judd Apatow movie banter.
Yeah, yeah, totally agree.
But the part that and this movie is at fault, and about a million other Hollywood movies, the double it, double it, double it, double it, lose it. I can't stand that.
What do you mean?
Anytime they're gambling in a movie and it's an impulsive gambler, it's always, they win, he wins $60. Then he bets 120. Then he bets 240. Then he bets, and it keeps going up and he keeps doubling it and eventually loses it. I'm so sick and tired of that.
That's so. I mean, I'm okay with that trope, and it doesn't bother me. Maybe that's because I grew up with multiple alcoholics who would just blow through money, and I know how easy it is to be there. I've watched it, so I'm okay with that trope. But I also understand why it could be annoying to you because that's how it always is. But let me tell you, when one of my father figures got their $60,000 commission check every year, it did not take very long to get through it. And they didn't even gamble. So, uh, uh, all that to say, I'm okay with that trope, but I get it. And I'll answer this question first because I am the virgin, and that's how this works. Was it a good or bad movie? I'm gonna say it was a bad movie. I understand why people like it and why people wouldn't say it's a bad movie. I also
Yeah.
understand. I also understand why people would care about these characters and their even though it's a shitty plot, like it all made sense, it all flowed. There weren't really any plot holes, and so I can understand if you get into it, if you like him. I get where this movie sits in people's hearts.
Yeah, I think this is a really good movie. It is definitely a movie where I wouldn't recommend it to. It has to be the right person to understand this movie. Because, like I
This
said, I think the genius of the movie is having a movie about race that's not heavy-handed.
this is a really good movie example of like you said, like who you'd recommend it to. And we'd probably have to be on year like 7 or 8 of this podcast, maybe even later. But this is one of your birthday movies. Like the only reason we watched this movie is because I started watching Blade last night because we were supposed to do Blade with Wesley Snipes. And the first scene opens up and he's killing all these vampires, and there's not any blood because he's killing them with silver and vampires just burn up. And I didn't even make it through this first scene. I was just like, I don't want to watch this. Like, if I'm going to watch a rated R movie because of violence, there's going to be some fucking blood. Like, what are we doing here? And came to this over picking a couple movies that weren't streaming for both of us, and here we are. But this is a perfect, like, this is your birthday movie because I would never watch this movie on my own.
Yeah, it's three charismatic people being charismatic, playing basketball, and going on Jeopardy. Again, this is Ron Shelton, the writer director of Bull Durham, who basically made a movie for me where it was, hey, what if Tim Robbins, Kevin Costner are playing minor league baseball and involved in a love triangle with Susan Sarandon? And I'm like, that's the perfect movie for me. And then someone says, that's taken. You got to come up with another idea. I would say a white guy and a black guy hustling, playing street basketball, and the white guy's girlfriend is a spicy Latina training to get on Jeopardy. It's perfect for me. I don't know what to tell
Yeah,
you.
which is funny because like I said, this is a birthday episode for you, and Bull Durham was a birthday episode because there's no way in fuck I'm watching a love triangle romance about baseball.
Me and Ron Shelton might be my real father.
That makes sense.
Me and Ron Shelton would be buds. I know it.
For fucking sure. All right, BJ, give me the ratings on this movie.
The public kind of tends to agree with you. This movie has a 6.8 on IMDb, 75% Rotten Tomatoes, and 65% Metacritic score, which all in all basically says that this is a very mixed review, average type movie.
Before you give me the Ebert review, I have some trivia for you. I think it fits well here. This is the late, great Stanley Kubrick's favorite movie.
Interesting. Is it because, like I said, it has all it's dark and it's lighthearted. It's, it's,
BJ,
is,
I have no idea why, and I don't.
that's right. I didn't expect you to go beyond what you saw on IMDb.
Correct.
So those reviews tend to go with what you think of the movie. What do you think Roger Ebert rated this movie?
Oh, Ebert loves this movie. I wouldn't be surprised if he gave it a 4, but 4s are hard to get from Ebert, so I'm going to say he gave it a 3.
This is a 3.5 out of 4 stars from
I
Roger
wanted to say
Ebert.
3.5. Man,
I thought you were going to when you said 4s are hard. I was like, oh, he's gonna nail it.
I should have said 3.5. I didn't think he liked it that much, but damn. Okay.
White Men Can't Jump is a movie about black basketball hustlers and a white guy who cons some of them and is conned by the others. But the plot description doesn't begin to do justice to this movie, which is all about language and timing and loyalty and betrayal, and is very smart and very funny. What the movie knows is how the game is played in the rough urban circles where these guys operate. Director Ron Shelton, who also wrote the screenplay, knows how his characters talk and sound and how they get into each other's minds with nonstop taunting and boasting. The language is one of the great joys of the film, not just because of its energy and spirit. Most of the characters are gifted verbal improvisers, but because of its originality. Snipes and Harrelson team up, fight, team up again, and the movie supplies the predictable sports formulas leading to the big game. But even here, it has surprises, and the payoff isn't exactly what we suspect. Here is a comedy of great high spirits with an undercurrent of sadness and sweetness that makes it a lot better than the plot itself could possibly suggest.
Okay.
So he just more eloquently said my review, basically.
Honestly, even with how great of a writer Ebert is, I liked your review better.
Yeah, because I think that's the genius of this movie is how to handle race without being heavy-handed.
Yeah, which is hard to do. So, BJ, before we get to the Mount Rushmore scenes, I have, and being a basketball movie by Ron Shelton, I have good trivia. I have really good BJ trivia.
Excellent.
My BJ trivia is, for auditions, Ron Shelton would start by having the people that came to audition play a pickup game against him and or other people. And depending on how they played, like he said he would be on conversations with agents and they'd be like, hey, how'd that casting call go? I was like, your boy couldn't even beat me.
This dude's jump shot is busted,
Yeah.
dude.
He can't do it.
He's just throwing up bricks. Can't handle, can't go left. Why'd you fucking send him?
Ron Shelton, he actually passed on up and coming Keanu Reeves because Keanu couldn't ball.
I don't see Keanu in the Woody Harrelson role.
Who knows? Doesn't matter.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's funny that this is the trivia too, because Woody Harrelson, when he came to audition, was notoriously bad at basketball. Very athletic, but Ron Shelton really liked how he immediately came on the court and started shit talking and his banter and just how confident he was. And he was like, whether he can play basketball or not, we can teach him. That's who I want as my whatever Snipes' character name was. Sidney Dean. I was like, that's Sidney Dean.
Yeah. Oh, wait. Snipes was the bad basketball player, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm saying that Shelton actually still brought him on to play Sidney Dean because whenever he came on to do that audition, he was shit talking and in people's faces and just charismatic with it too. And Ron Shelton was like, that's my Sidney Dean. I can teach him basketball.
Yeah, because it's kind of hard to tell because basically all the basketball scenes were in slow motion. But you can tell Woody Harrelson is the better basketball player of the two.
Yeah, he played in college.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. All right. Mount Rushmore scenes. Why don't you start it off so I can do the last number one scene?
Jacob, I'm going to need you to shower before we get this deep in this movie.
Oh, are you? Because I've already been balls deep in White Men Can't Jump, and I did not shower.
Okay, so my fourth favorite scene is a scene I titled, I Gotta Go Get My Other Gun.
Awesome.
Which, what a fantastic line. I loved this scene when the guy's like, yeah, I just need to go to my glove compartment and get my money. And then he goes and tries to rob the bodega. And the guy's like,
From an owner he clearly knows.
Yeah, he's like, Marcus, what are you doing?
So fucking funny. So funny.
This was probably, would you say this was the funniest scene in the movie?
No, the funniest scene in the movie is my fourth favorite scene. This is the third funniest scene. But it's hilarious, and this movie also makes my Mount Rushmore. So it's one of the funniest scenes. It's great. Anything else about this scene?
No, there's a lot of basketball in this movie. I mean, the first hour of this movie is probably 45 minutes of basketball. But the I'm going to go get my other gun just made me laugh. And I really liked the big dude that was the guy they were hustling in that scene.
Cool. My fourth favorite scene is the showdown for the doubles matchup.
Yes.
In fact, it's the whole doubles matchup. Woody Harrelson's on a roll. He's doing fucking awesome. Woody Harrelson is just fantastic in this scene, and I love how annoyed and pissy Wesley Snipes gets. And then the funniest scene of this whole fucking bit was after Woody and Snipes win, all of the white judges go immediately, let's pay these boys and get out of here, as they're practically running away from their seats. I laughed out loud so hard. That shit was so fucking, like, to me, that's the best single part of the movie.
That was very funny. I laughed out loud at that moment too, because this is my third favorite scene. It is when Woody Harrelson stops being the hustler and starts being the basketball player, and you're like, oh, he can talk shit just as good as anybody else in these streets.
Yeah.
And my other than that line that you mentioned, my other favorite part is when you see Snipes is starting to get embarrassed by what Woody Harrelson is saying, and then Snipes starts doing the embarrassing stretches right next to him. Yeah. Was great physical comedy. And really, this is probably the best basketball in the movie was in these 2-on-2 games.
I would say so too. I would say this is the best basketball in the movie, and they had good basketball stuff shot, like very good stuff.
A lot of backdoor cuts.
Yeah.
These guys cannot defend the backdoor cut out on these streets, man. They got to work on that. That's the first thing I'm doing as their coach. I'm like, you guys, we're playing by ones. Let them shoot long shots. Stop giving up these backdoor cuts for layups, man.
Yeah, but they were great. Such a good scene. My third favorite scene is your fourth favorite scene. I thought it was so funny him saying, I'm going to go to my car, get my money, grabbing a gun, putting on a ski mask, walking into the corner store of an owner he clearly knows.
Yeah, it's like, dude, you are 6'7", 270 pounds. Everyone in that neighborhood knows you. You are a giant man.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love just the community that different cultures and in this case black people have, because after this fool took off his mask, he still asked homeboy for the money as a straight up loan.
And then he sold his gun to him.
And homeboy wasn't mad. Everything happened. It so fucking funny, so good, so great. I love that scene. And then I love finishing the game. I love him saying, I'm going to go grab my other gun. And I lie Steet and Sheila Eddie Guerrero this because I take this to Woody going home and telling Rosie that he lost their money.
Before that, we also have to talk about Rosie Perez just reading the almanac in the car.
No, that's not in this scene.
Oh, that's in the I gotta go get my other gun scene.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I'm thinking of another scene. I'm thinking of another top scene for me. My bad. Loved Rosie Perez reading in the car. Just and chewing gum. Like I hate when people smack gum. It drives me fucking bonkers. But
Yeah,
Rosie,
because that drive back is the Jimi Hendrix
yeah,
portion.
no, you're right, and I take it through that. But I'm just saying, like I love Rosie Perez chewing gum or smacking gum, looking good. All right, what's your
Speaking
number
of
2 scene?
speaking of Rosie Perez, it's the introduction to Rosie Perez. Just braless tank top, phenomenal rack, pictures of the presidents on the wall, and him just walking in and her being like, "How much money did you make for me today, baby?" Is just what an entrance.
Yes,
And you know, this kind of leads into I don't know how to just it's that entrance is incredible, and I knew because I think I always tend to forget how good she is in this movie, and as soon as that entrance hit, I was like, oh, that's right, I love Rosie Perez in this movie.
I mean, you're right. The intro to her character, how hot she is, and then just her big dick energy. How much money you make for me today, baby?
Spouting
And
off all the foods that start with the letter Q.
she's so good. And what a good number 2 scene. What a good number 2 scene. They have great hits that in that scene too, don't they?
This movie is sexier than Magic Mike. I think there's like 3 really good sex scenes in this movie, and Magic Mike had 0. How? How does White Man Can't Jump have better sex scenes than Magic Mike? That blew my fucking mind. I'm still mad about Magic Mike.
As you should be. As you should be. So my second favorite scene, I started a bit early just so you can have some background. It's when Woody loses all his money the first time. When him and Snipes are teaming up against 2 other dudes, right?
Yes.
And he's got it,
Yes.
and so just that, so you have a little setup, and then going home to tell Rosie that he lost all their money, and her without skipping a beat, you got hustled. No, I didn't get hustled. No, you got fucking hustled. And then they go to Sydney's house, and you get Sydney's wife, which she killed it in this scene too. Her and Rosie just going off of each other, and just straight up like, you ain't getting your money back, boo. Like, my main priority is getting the fuck up out of this bitch. So sorry you lost your money. And it sets you up for later with Woody not being able to dunk and Snipes taking his money. Because Nima's watching this movie. She's like, I really thought he was going to be his friend and let him keep his money and just being like, you're being stupid. And I'm like, no, not
No,
after his wife. Not after his wife. Like, they on the same page.
there ain't no vistas, there ain't no views, and there sure as hell ain't no vista views.
Yep. And just like Snipes' wife, she was willing to help them out and give them some money back as a loan. And just like Snipes, he kept telling Woody, nah, man, you don't want to take this bet. It don't matter what you can do out there. You can play. You can ball. Don't take this bet. Like, he gave him chances.
Yeah, if you're dumb enough to do it, you're dumb enough to do it.
But my number 2 scene is just Rosie noticing the fuck up and then going over there and Rosie and Snipes' wife working off each other. I thought that was great shit. Great shit.
My favorite scene in the movie is I say first scene. The first scene is like 20 minutes long. It is a long scene. You already mentioned coming up with the handful of guys doing the song at Venice Beach, and that first basketball game, Woody Harrelson being real humble and unassuming, and then just turning and hustling the fuck out of Wesley Snipes. I knew Snipes, Snipes is going to be great in this scene. You get the bad yo mama jokes. It's it sets up the movie so well, and even though it's 20 minutes, it flies by. It's it's really good storytelling without getting bogged down into plots and details and stuff. I love this first scene so much. I love the first 20 minutes of this movie.
The first 20 minutes is great. I forgot to say that I was supposed to lie, cheat, and steal on my number 2 scene because Rosie Perez doing Jeopardy. Like, it's just all Rosie Perez for my number 2 scene. And because it was all Rosie Perez for my number 2 scene, this was the hardest scene to keep off my Mount Rushmore. Because, like I said earlier, after watching, like you said, this 25-minute intro, and not one bit of it seemed rushed. They didn't waste any screen time. There was no wasted dialogue. Nothing. You got introduced to Woody, his vibe, his outfit, talking to the guy singing, leaving him $1. The game, Woody hustling was
Great outfits in this movie. Just
fantastic.
streetwear king Woody Harrelson.
Yep. And fucking awesome. Great scene. It's my most honorable number 1 mention, and honestly probably should be on my Mount Rushmore. But because of how I felt about this movie, I wanted to talk about other shit, and I knew you'd include it. My number one's go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, that scene's it's so good. And like you said, it is 20 minutes without any time being wasted. Every bit of dialogue is perfect. There's still some things to learn about Woody, but you pretty much know everything you need to know about those characters without any exposition.
100%. So glad you included this. Like I said, like, spoiler alert, this movie gets under a 5 for me. So I decided to do my Mount Rushmore different. There were other things I wanted to touch because Rosie Perez is a fucking star. I love this scene. Like I said earlier, after this scene, I thought I was going to enjoy the fuck out of this movie. Like, this movie was going to be great. And it just wasn't for me. But this movie, I was sold. Or after this scene, I was sold. Thank you for including this scene as your number 1. My number 1 scene is him getting back together with Rosie through the end.
So post Jeopardy,
Yeah.
and they played whatever Duck and Mouse or whatever the hell they were called.
Yes, and not when him and Rosie are in the hotel and she gives him the money and they get back together. From the point where she's skating and her and Woody are good and Snipe shows up to the end of the movie. That's my number 4. That's my number 1 scene. Snipe shows up and like I loved Rosie Perez's character in this show or in this movie. It was incredible. Like, obviously she wanted to be with this dude. She knew his faults, all this stuff. And Wesley Snipes had to ask Homeboy one question. Started to question everything. I thought that was great. He tells her that he's going to win the money. He still thinks he's got the girl. And I knew right then that this movie was going to end without him getting the girl. And at that moment, I was like, I like how this movie's going to end. I like that Rosie's not going to stay.
I loved that. That's great.
That great storytelling. Great, and I knew it in that moment. I saw it happen. I saw it happen on her face. She acted it perfectly. They go do this game. They fucking win, which also I found low-key funny because he guaranteed a win, and they won by the lowest margin possible.
I feel like they won every game by 1 point. I feel like there was some Chiefs bullshit in there with them. They just kept winning by one score.
And I do too. And at this point of the movie, and they're facing old guys. Like, these two are in their prime. They're facing guys that used to run these courts that are old now. Like, easy to guarantee a win. And they take these guys that are 20 years older than them up to the lowest margin of winning. Thought that was funny. I personally thought that was funny. And then they go to the hotel and he's looking for homegirl, and Wesley Snipes gives him the advice. He's like, dude, what the fuck are you saying? You talked me into this. Bro, I didn't talk you into shit. I asked you one question.
I didn't even have to convince you.
Yeah, I didn't do shit. Like, shut the fuck. And I thought that was funny. I thought it was well executed. I thought it was one of those other really good dynamics on race because, you know, in this movie, watching this movie, you think the black guy's got the problem with money.
Right.
Because why wouldn't you? He's living in the projects, dressing the way he does. Like, Woody Harrelson even brings it up earlier in the movie, like, how much of that change, how many dinners that change set your family back? And he's just like, "Dude, I didn't convince you a shit. I asked you one question. You did this. I'm just giving you some advice." And Woody's like, "What am I supposed to do with that advice?" "Bro, I don't know. You're an adult. You're a grown man. You figure it
And
out."
just so refreshing to not be like a white savior movie
Yeah.
or a, what's the magical negro. Like, this is just a normal guy who's giving you the best advice that he knows what to give you, which is maybe you guys are better off separate. Like,
Yep.
I didn't convince you for shit. You're the one that kept telling me I was being flashy, caring more about how I looked and how I won. And you're the dumbass who said you could dunk and lost all your fucking money to me.
Yep.
Like,
Even
you're
even
the
the
one concerned with your ego, not
e-
me. We're not that different.
you're the one that when I asked you the question, the one time I did, told me no and why, because you just got back together with your girl. And by no convincing or no other words from me, we're like, I can do this. I should do this. That's you, dog. Love that scene. And then I take it just one step further because I thought this was so funny and there's no way to not add this. Is it hard back to the first scene? Snipes and Harrison are going back to the courts to play because now they friends. And Snipes put in a $20 bill on the guy singing the gospel. And Woody's just blown the fuck away. He's like, you give them a 20? Like, who's going to look
If I
out for
don't
them
take care
besides
about,
their own?
if I don't
And
take
that
care of
and
my people, who will?
that's black culture, bro.
Yeah.
That's the Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X never said a negative thing about each other. Like you ain't gonna catch it happening. Yeah, I give him $20. Your ass giving him $1. The fuck out of here. Thought that was a great way to end the movie. Thought that was so great.
I feel like you liked a lot about this movie to give it below a 5.
It was boring. Like I guarantee you I'll never watch this movie ever again. And I'm glad
Okay.
I waited till 33 because I don't think I would have appreciated it the way that I should have. Because there's good things about this movie. Just for some reason, I didn't care about the character, so it bored me.
Yeah, but like what happened now, I do kind of wish Westly would have bought the house at the end, but just like even not caring about him, just having that realistic ending of the breakup and never seeing each other again. It's so good. It's so good an ending, which is even better that you didn't care about the characters and they didn't make it and you're like, "Ah, it's kind of refreshing."
You know what? Maybe after we get done talking and we get to the end, I give it a higher score because you're not wrong.
Oh, honorable mention to the when you thought they killed Woody Harrelson and it was just to take a picture of the Polaroid.
So funny. Yeah, there were mob hits in this movie.
Two two mob guys from Louisiana going to LA for an entire weekend to get 7 grand back?
Hey,
I don't know, man.
it doesn't have to make sense, BJ.
That's
All right.
true.
Character breakdown should
Oh,
be quick and easy.
yeah, because there's only 3 characters.
Billy Hoyle, Woody Harrelson, great.
One thing I have to say, and this is a PSA to any black listeners that we have. If you are in a predominantly black neighborhood and a white guy shows up to the pickup game, that guy is good. He might not be the best player there, but that guy is good, and he is going there because he is too good to play with all the white guys that are around him. This is speaking from experience. Trust me, pick that white guy on your team. Maybe last pick, maybe second to last pick because the other guy's not going to take him. But that guy is at least in a 5-on-5 game, that guy is at least the 4th best player on the court. That's why he showed up to the hood, because he has outplayed every white guy that's around him. I just needed to get that PSA out there today.
And it has been delivered, and that is who Billy Doyle is, and he hustles out some money. Anything else you want to say about good old Billy Doyle?
Uh, I I kind of thought they casted him because he kind of looks like Larry Bird, and they were going for a Larry Magic thing. I know you
Okay.
wouldn't know about this, but that's also part of the movie because And if you hear Larry and Magic talk about each other, despite what they did and said to each other on the court, immense respect for each other. And the irony is that, Larry Bird, as the white guy, he was the smart one and, who knew what was going on, and he worked harder and blah, blah, blah. And there's been several books written about these guys. I think the Jackie McMullen one is probably the best. Bird and Magic both say that Bird was the better athlete and the more talented one, and Magic was the smarter, better teammate, harder worker of them. And I thought this movie really kind of shows that dynamic really well.
Nice. All right. Yeah, you're right. I wouldn't know anything about Larry Bird. I've seen pictures of him. He has a small jaw. Woody Harrelson has a huge jaw. I don't think they look very similar.
It's just also, the hair and the hick thing is what it is.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. I fucking like this movie makes me want to watch more Wesley Snipes movies. Like he's got that incredible banter that if he's with someone who he clicks with, like you have like a Chris Tucker, Jackie Chan, Rush Hour, Mel Gibson, Danny Glover, Lethal Weapon. Like he's just so good at that back and forth banter.
He has a great run with, Major League, Passenger 57, New Jack City in this movie. That's a hell of a run he had there, the late 80s, early 90s.
And that's just when he's getting started in Hollywood. Like, what a way to start.
I much prefer this run before his Blade, Demolition Man stuff.
Fair enough. And I can see that because the only stuff I've ever seen him in is Blade and Demolition Man. And I'm watching this and I'm just like, oh, there's other good Wesley Snipes shit out there.
You've got to watch New Jack City. I'm not sure it's a podcast movie, but New Jack City, Wesley Snipes as Nino Brown is an incredible character.
Okay. New Jack City. I'll add it on to the watch list. But yeah, I mean, what else do you have to say about how awesome Wesley Snipes was? His fucking hat was incredible. I typically hate those kinds of hats, but it looked great. It looked good on him. You put a fucking, like, this is the perfect time in the early 90s to put a fanny pack on Wesley Snipes.
See, I prefer double tank top. I really loved double tank top in this movie. I'm thinking about rocking that look now.
Fair enough. Rosie Perez. Just, like I said, the star of the movie, every time she's on screen, is just fucking lights out. Even when she's not talking, like you said, when she's just sitting there reading that book as they're playing basketball.
Just braless and just nips just right there.
Yeah. Just, and such a fucking badass woman, too.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed her character. She cracked me up. I loved her on Jeopardy. I loved her just answering, like, one of my favorite things, and I didn't get to talk about it because I missed it in the Mount Rushmore, was fat old white dude with the PhD, the multiple Jeopardy winner, wanted so bad to tell he was breaking the rules. I was like, no, sorry, motherfucker. I just know the answers.
He was so pissed.
And I loved it. Because, again, it's one of those things dealing with race in a lighthearted way. Like, people that aren't white are just as smart as white people because there's no superior race of any kind.
Yeah.
And you know this old balding white dude in the early 90s just looking at this skinny little Latina.
How the fuck is this Puerto Rican chick smarter than me? I am the superior race and gender. What's going on here?
Just incredible. Anything else you want to say about her?
Nah. I think it's pretty much been covered. She's on the Rushmore now.
Fair enough. So IMDb has changed things. I have to pay for IMDb Pro, which is $8 a month to get budget and box office data, which I will not be doing.
Does it still have trivia?
I already pay for this shit. Yeah,
Oh,
with
okay.
those
Okay,
people.
cool.
And
There's other
because
ways to find box office and budget, right?
if they include it in trivia, but if they don't, I'm just stuck with what I got.
Just ask the new Chinese AI that's free and you don't have to use a web browser so they don't steal your data.
I already do that. So unless it's on trivia, I won't have it. In fact, today I have no budget. But in 1992, the U.S. gross was $76 million.
There's no way this movie costs more than 10 million either. No way.
I wouldn't think so, but unfortunately, I don't know. Worldwide, it made 90, which makes sense. Europeans like basketball, so that's my budget stuff. Trivia, because I like cars. The car Billy drives is a 1967 Oldsmobile Cutlass convertible, and Sydney drives an '81 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am.
Love that car. I love that early 80s Trans Am.
Yes, sir. When Woody Harrelson was making this movie, the producers hired Bob Lanier, the retired Detroit
L-
Pistons center, as a basketball coach. Harrelson, who had played some basketball in college, was bragging to Lanier about what a great player he was. Lanier invited Harrelson to play a little one-on-one. Harrelson later described it as one of the most embarrassing 15 minutes of my life, quote.
It's the Scalabrini challenge. So Brian Scalabrini was like just the perpetual 12th man on a team. And everyone said he sucked and everyone said they could beat him. And like 5 years after he retired from the NBA, he held a challenge. And there were former Division 1 players, there was guys playing semi-pro in Europe showed up. No one scored more than 2 points in games to 11. He
I
destroyed them all. And he
I
was largely thought of as the worst player in the NBA. And this is 5 years after he retired.
I fucking love that. There are multiple reasons I love that, and I never get the opportunity to talk about this. It's it's what makes that line funny. The second most important player on a football team is the backup quarterback in the NFL. Like, it's not true. Of course it's not true. But it's just like, just because you're a backup quarterback doesn't mean that you're a better quarterback than 99% of the people on the planet.
99.999.
Yeah, like, I'll fucking throw dimes on your ass, motherfucker. I was a backup in the NFL. It's it reminds me of the stories you always tell about just being a average height, balding white dude in their 30s trying to play some basketball, and everyone takes you for granted, and all of a sudden it's just like, I wish that motherfucker was on my team. Like, God
I,
damn it.
I I gave that PSA earlier because especially in high school, that's what I did. I would go to DeSoto, Lancaster, Duncanville, Cedar Hill, and play pickup games there. And I won a lot because I was the last one picked and was the, fourth best player on the court.
Yeah, I know why you gave that PSA. Just, wanted to bring it up. And then lastly, it was when reality TV shows were at their peak. And my favorite all time is the Broken Skull Ranch by Stone Cold Steve Austin, because how could it fucking not be? But my second all time favorite is Pros versus Joes. And you had all these retired professional athletes who, you want to know why Tom Brady's good at golfing? Because he's a professional athlete. Like, they don't have to play even half as much as you to wipe the fucking floor. And I loved watching that show. It was incredible. Pros versus Joes. If you've never seen it, go check it out.
It's wonderful television. I'm assuming they had to cancel it because everyone died. Because
Yeah.
they were like, try not to get tackled by this backup linebacker that's been retired for 4 years, and he just murders them.
Yeah. So, yeah, just incredible. According to their basketball instructors, Snipes and Harrelson reached the skill level to be able to start for an NCAA Division III team.
Mm, eh.
I'm just letting you know
I
what
don't
the
know.
trivia says, BJ.
Okay. All right. I mean, I'll take their word for it. Start is a strong word.
Fair. Local Ven- local Venice basketball legend Ron Beals appears as the player with the gray beard and purple spandex shorts in the opening game, and then again later as a spectator in the background. Beals is considered the pioneer of the jump shot while playing at Loyola in the 56 to 60 season. To this day, he is celebrated annually in Venice with a Ron Beals Day event, and Ron Beals played every day until his death at 78 from a stroke.
Dude, I'm 36 and I have a hard time getting up and down the court. I can't imagine playing at 78.
Like I said, I knew you'd enjoy this trivia.
God.
Uh, Ron Shelton wrote the first 37 pages in one night until things came to a complete halt. He said it was written fast and he was trying to figure out what Glorious Thing was because it had to be so unconnected from the guys because that's big for me to make sure that women aren't defined in terms of the guy's business. After you heard someone's discussing a friend's aspiration to get on Jeopardy, the final piece was in place. Quote, there is no logic to it. It's sort of a Hollywood dream.
Okay, that's awesome. But also, was there an inclination of a drinking problem for Rosie Perez that they never followed through on?
I don't think so.
Woody Harrelson says something about the bottle of liquor, and then she's like sneaking drinks while he's in the shower. I I didn't know what was going on with that. I was, and this is the first time I've caught it, and this is like the third time I've seen this movie. So I don't know.
No idea. I do know that the foods that start with the letter Q was an actual category on October 1997 in Jeopardy.
So after this movie, Jeopardy saw it. Like, yeah, we'll throw that in.
Yes. This is funny. Two soundtracks were released by Capitol Records. The first, White Men Can't Jump, was released on March 24th, 1992, and consisted of mostly of R&B. The second, White Men Can't Rap, was released April 7th and consisted entirely of hip hop. Again, with more stuff on the title. Ron Shelton says, I had the title before I had written a word. The foreign translation was even funnier. Can't jump was translated in many foreign languages as can't score, like can't score a goal. And to score a goal was to put it in, so it's white men can't put it in many countries. Oh, you're upset with jumping.
Also, best title to a movie of all time?
Best title to a movie I've seen outside of Die Hard. Die Hard's still the best.
Okay, all right. Yeah. It's in the conversation.
It's on the Mount Rushmore. How about that?
Yeah. For
Right?
sports movies, for sure.
Oh, for sports movies, for sure, 100%. All-time movies, I'll put it in the Mount Rushmore.
Okay. The title of the movie is amazing. And they say the title in the movie, which is always one of our favorite things.
So Ron Shelton drew inspiration from his time on the court. He goes, I went one Friday and the park was chained up. What happened? He remembers I said, what happened? And they said, so and so got shot. Somebody went to the glove box. When someone says that, everyone goes running. He came back and shot the guy dead. And I said, what was the issue? And he said, blocker charge. That story would make its way into the film with Raymond, who was a former NBA player, Marquise Johnson.
First of
I don't
all,
know if you knew all that.
if you call a charge in a pickup game, my white bald ass is making fun of you. Secondly, that seems awfully aggressive to shoot somebody over.
Hey, there's a reason that Reagan and the NRA put gun restrictions in California.
That's true.
And my last bit of trivia, a movie we will probably watch soon, referenced here in this trivia, but Charlie Sheen was actually the first choice for the role of Billy Doyle. He turned it down saying, quote, I didn't feel it would be any fun. I don't feel connected to basketball. At least when I do a baseball movie, I know I'm going to have a good time. Had Sheen accepted, he would have been reunited with Major League co-star Westly Snipes.
Basically, what I'm saying is they didn't put enough cocaine in my contract. No more tiger blood. I needed tiger blood and cocaine.
Exactly. The best part is looking back on that interview and watching Charlie Sheen lose his ever-loving shit and just being like, considering what today is, he's pretty normal. I'd go back to that in a heartbeat. Shit.
That's tame for 2025.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's my trivia.
Sweet, sweet.
Oh my God.
Did you read what I wrote for this?
Yeah. Just for all our listeners, BJ wrote on our script, impersonation, Rosie Perez, ... This is gonna be terrible. Attention, everyone. We thought that we would do it would be funny to do a Rosie Perez impersonation. One of us, who shall remain unnamed, attempted said impersonation, and we have decided that
It was way too racist to put on here.
yeah, exactly. So we will be moving to our next segment. Thank you for listening to IRMFT Pod. All right, final thoughts on the movie in general. I'll start being the virgin. Coming into this episode, I was rating this movie a 4 out of 10. Same rating I gave Magic Mike. You texted me earlier today asking how is this movie sexier than Magic Mike? And I said, I don't know if it's sexier, but it's definitely less boring. So I do think it's less boring than Magic Mike. And then throughout the day and then throughout the podcast, I'm just like, this is way sexier than Magic Mike. BJ's totally right. So it gains a point there. And then just everything we've talked about, all the different things that I liked. Like this gets an even 5 for me. Not any higher, not any lower. I'll probably never watch it again, but I enjoyed a lot of things about it, and I can understand why people enjoy this movie.
Now take my rating with a grain of salt, because again, if this is probably the second most made
BJ,
for me movie of all time.
Can I interrupt you real quick?
Yeah.
In case you haven't listened to the podcast episode, this is the podcast where I rated Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back a 10 out of 10. Okay? So
Yes.
everything's on a curve.
Yes.
Continue, BJ.
So this movie is made for me. Keep all that in mind. But I love how interesting everything is done in this movie. I love how original it is. Ron Shelton is my guy. This movie is a 9.3.
Nice. 9.3 is a good score.
Again, made for me, made specifically for me. But it has some very interesting and original ideas in here. So take that what you may, or whatever the saying is.
All right. Should they remake this? They did. I have no idea what it is. I accidentally clicked on it a couple times when trying to look at trivia and budget stuff.
I'm assuming bad. It's too unique a movie to do again.
And you need Ron Shelton and you need the early 90s. You can't make, I personally don't think you can make a movie about race and make it light. And like entirely about race. Like you can make race light in your movie and it be like a backdrop. But a movie entirely about race, I don't think you can make it light nowadays.
You know, and I actually kind of was thinking about this at some point today. How different is this movie if it's made, when were the Watts riots? 94? 95? Whatever. If this movie is made after that, is it a different movie?
No, I don't think so. Because that's another reason you couldn't do this movie nowadays, is there's not a young Ron Shelton or what's the other guy's name that he got game?
Spike Lee.
Yeah, and not a young Spike Lee. Like you get different movies from those two guys when it concerns race because they're older now.
Yeah, and like I said, every race movie after that is so heavy-handed. Heavy-handed. And I have no idea if this works today. If someone, I don't know if a 20-year-old would even understand this movie.
I wonder if Key and Peele could, because I wonder if they could do something like that. It's all our interesting thoughts. Yeah, like BJ said, he's sure that the remake wasn't good. So take that for what you will. They decided to remake it just 2 years ago, 2023. BJ, there's not a lot of reviews about this movie, and the two best reviews that I found kind of sound like we each wrote the good and the bad one.
Okay.
So for the first one, I actually found a 10 out of 10 from HST Teach, titled 6.8 for this movie is ridiculous. Are I serious? This is an absolute classic. And if you didn't enjoy this movie, you don't enjoy much of anything, I guess. 6.8 question mark? Some of you have issues.
Yeah. Yeah. He's welcome on the pod. That's my guy.
And
Again,
then
the difference between me and him is I can see the flaws in this movie, and it's I think people that don't like it are more confused by it than anything.
I would agree with that. And one of the reasons that review works for us is you woke up to me saying this movie was boring, and you're just like, you just don't understand race. Like this boring triple question mark. This movie is far from boring. Again, to my responses, it's just because you don't understand race. Y'all ain't about these streets like me.
That's right. I texted you the phrase "Y'all ain't about these streets like me."
It's one of my favorite all-time quotes as of today. It made me laugh out loud.
That can go on a t-shirt with "Show us your dick, Michael Douglas."
And because it's so good, it would ruin other movies because they're not that good. After I told you I'm glad I waited until 33 to watch this movie. You're glad you waited so long to appreciate cinematic perfection. Then after that, the very next text, I'm so excited for this podcast. And then your podcast notes.
Oh, man.
Like, so reading that review, I was like, this is BJ.
Yeah, that guy that wrote that review, he's about the streets.
Yep. All right. So from Phil Eccentric, from Phil Eccentric, 3 out of 10, titled A Swing and a Miss. So baseball reference for basketball. So already bad there.
Bad pun. Wrong pun.
Okay. So titled A Swing and a Miss. Or should I state a shot in an air ball?
Ew. At least call it a brick, my friend.
Good actors, acting, plot is stale, story builds at a mediocre rate, ultimately falls flat overall. A cover and title I'll remember, but the movie overall is very forgettable.
Interesting.
Like I said, these two reviews sound like we wrote them.
Yeah, because again, this movie isn't about the plot. This movie is the plot is race, right? That's essentially the real plot of the movie. And I think that's what gets people. I think that's what a lot of people's holdup in this movie is.
I do too, especially after my feelings about it. But yeah, I mean, those are the best on there. There's not a lot on there. I found you the best ones. So, BJ, should people watch this movie? I'll answer first as the person who did not like this movie. Yeah, I mean, if you like basketball, I think you'll like this movie. And if you were born in anytime in the 80s or the early 90s, I think you'll like this movie. You should watch it. I think if you're born after, I think if you're born after that, exclusively only if you like basketball.
You're on to something there. But go into it with the understanding that this movie is 3/4 basketball. 3/4 of this movie is something to do with basketball. And like I said, with the racial undertone, but the, not heavy-handedness of it, and kind of how it toes the line with everything. I think it's interesting enough to watch, even if you don't enjoy it, it's probably a movie you should still watch and think about.
Agreed. Totally agree. Good shit, BJ.
Yeah, I thought we would have to wait for my birthday episode to do this movie.
I did too. Has a lot to do with the fact that different streaming services don't like to put the same stuff on in the US as in Colombia or other countries. And I really wanted to watch a movie on the TV last night. Like, I watch enough movies on my laptop.
Yeah, and your birthday movie, I went to it and there was no rent options. I could only buy it for $14. And I was like, I'm not doing this, Jacob.
And I don't want you to. And you remember how on the last episode I said I would pay to rent this movie for you, knowing that you wouldn't accept that because that's ridiculous. It's just $4.
Yeah.
There's no way in fuck paying $14 for you to watch this movie. We will be watching this movie on the laptop. As much as I like this movie and want you to watch it on the TV, this is a laptop movie. Like, why the fuck won't you let people rent it for $4?
I don't know. Who's paying $14 for it?
Like, who cares if you want to pay $14 for it? I think it's that good of a movie. You should all own the movie Argyle with Sam Rockwell. I think it's that good. And Matthew Vaughn's movies typically bore me because there's big lulls in the middle of them. This is that good. But you're not going to let me spend $4 to rent this movie? Because I don't know if people know this, I'm sure they do. We all live in 2025. These movie rental places already, the moment you press play, you have 24 hours to finish that movie beginning to end, or you've lost $4.
Like 24 hours seems aggressive. Can you give me 72?
But that's what I'm saying, BJ. Like, let me rent it for $4 for 24 hours, potentially not watch all of it, and then have to rent it again. You've already made $8. Like, the only people that are going to buy this are going to be the people that buy it because we live in 2025 and you can go to free movie websites with a pop-up blocker and fucking watch a movie. Let me rent it for $4, asshole.
I would pay you the $4, but you tried to get greedy and charged me 14, so now you get nothing.
That angered me when you sent me that last night, and yeah, so anyways, that's us at IRMFT.
Stay tuned for the rest of what do we call Black History Movie Month?
Yeah. If you have recommendations, send us stuff. We want to do fun movies. 70s blaxploitation films.
12 Years a Slave. You should watch it. It's good. We're not doing it on this podcast.
Yeah, we're trying to do the movies that are fun to talk about, you know? And it doesn't have to deal with black elements. Like, this is a fun movie podcast. Sometimes we're stupid. We have a lot of sexual innuendos. Like,
we do racist accents of Rosie Perez and then don't let you listen to them because they were too racist.
Yeah, so we're down to do Men in Black. Like Will Smith is the star of that movie. Like, that's okay. Like, we're just trying to have fun. Also, I've never seen this movie, but I'm also not saying it's not fun to talk about. But I think Red Flyers, Red Lines, something with Lawrence Fishburne on Disney Plus is about the Tuskegee Airmen. Like, if it's fun and serious, we're down too.
Yeah. Like I said, but 12 Years a Slave, not fun.
It's like my brother today texting our group chat saying that Dallas Buyers Club is a really good movie and we should think about doing it on the pod.
He said, I don't know if you've ever heard of this movie. It's called Dallas Buyers Club with Matthew McConaughey. And I was like, David, we've heard of this movie. We've seen this movie. It's great. We will not be doing it on the podcast. I saw it once. Don't ever want to see it again. I was insulted when he asked if we've heard of the movie before.
Honestly, me too. Because he definitely thought we hadn't heard of it before. And I'm just like, dude, just because we have a stupid movie podcast doesn't mean we don't watch serious movies. We just don't talk about them because they're not fun to talk about. I mean, we talk about them for like 10 minutes.
Like I said, I was insulted. I was literally insulted. I was upset with him.
Yeah, but anyways, IRMFT pod, we're on the socials. Follow us.
at IRMFT pod on the main ones.
Yep.
We got a Red Note account yet?
Who knows? Probably not.
Well, until next time, we continue Black History Movie Month. Bye.
Bye.